Alrighty guys, we are back in the garage today working on the KTM EXCF 500. This is the 2023 6 days model. And we got some cool stuff in store for the season that I'm pretty stoked to work on and pretty excited just in general about doing. But that means that we really had to clean up the bike. I didn't get a chance to clean it up last year before we put it in storage, so I cleaned it up today. Power washed everything down, tried to clean it the best I possibly could, and basically just get it ready for 2023, or 2024, I apologize. This is a 2023, but we're getting ready for 2024. Last year we had a really great riding season, put 900 miles on the bike, about 38 hours, so pretty decent season for me. We are trying to upgrade and change and work on some stuff that I didn't like about last year and some things that I wanted to do this year. So I'm just going to kind of go over the bike a little bit and tell you a little bit about some of the things that we did in 2023. And then we're going to talk about some of the things that we're going to do in 2024. And we're going to get started on some of those things today. So in 2023, some of the mods that we did was we replaced the steering wheel grips, the steering grips, the fork grips, whatever. So replaced the grips. I was running the OD Rogue 2 grips. I really love those grips. Definitely dampened down the vibrations, which is really nice. I also, from Fast Companies, or from I think it's Flex Companies, they have a steering wheel, or a steering handlebar anti-vibration system, which you drill and tap. You don't even have to drill, you just tap your bar ends and then you put this insert in. So I did that last year to try to dampen the vibrations up front. These bikes have so much vibration, it's ridiculous. Like, it is crazy how much these things vibrate. They just vibrate their bolts off, basically. So I try to do that to get my hands a little less numb when I was riding on really long trips, hard enduro stuff or single track stuff. And that kind of helped, but it definitely wasn't foolproof, that's for sure. So this season in 2024, we're going to be making some modifications. We're going to keep those in the bars, but we're also going to be adding a Mako 360 to this. And we're also going to be adding a VR5 GPR damper, a V5 GPR damper. So we're going to be adding both of those things to try to help reduce vibrations up front and also give us a little bit more stable steering when we're on the highway and on long open roads or two tracks and stuff like that. So that's one thing that we're doing up front here. Another thing we're doing is, you can see there's no suspension on the bike. That's because we sent the suspension out to get redone by Moto Labs. So they are doing a 3-inch lowering kit for me, a custom 3-inch lowering kit, custom valves, custom springs, spring for my weight with my gear and my riding style. So that's what we're doing there. So that's pretty sick. This year we're going to be updating our front plate with the moto-minded front plate for the XL80 headlight to help it move around less. So that'll be super sick. And then we are also going to be doing a, what was I going to say? Oh, we're going to be relocating some of the gauges up here to move them up higher. And then we're going to be adding a trail tech to this bike as well. Last year, we were running this Magma Ox brake, which is a really cool setup. But what I don't like about it is that I have to pull in the clutch here and then try to get to this brake with one finger, because that was as close as I could get it, you know, with everything that's going on here. So we are going to be replacing this stock, I don't really know what you call this, I guess your controls. So this controls like the horn, the turn signals, the headlight. So we're going to be putting a sick-ass one on here. So that's going to slim things down, so we'll have more room up here. And then we're going to be changing out this setup for a dual brake setup. So the, well, I guess it's going to be a dual setup. So it's going to be 2 levers, one right below the other one. And the first lever is going to be our clutch. The second lever is going to be our rear brake. I think it's really cool to run a handbrake. If you can't get to your foot brake in time, or if you're moving around a lot, and or you just feel like it's easier to get to the handbrake than the foot brake, I think it's a really cool option to have both, and I do use both when I'm riding on the trail. So that's going to be something new for this year, so I'm going to be getting rid of this unit entirely, putting the new unit in. We have a Git ECU on the way. We are also going to be doing a modded pipe. So we're just going to take our stock pipe and replace the end cap to mod our pipe. So these pipes actually do really well from the factory. If you want to spend all the extra money, you can, but the horsepower gain is like less than 1, maybe 2. So it's like, it's really not worth it. And that's really only in the top end. You only experience that in top end. Like for the kind of riding that I do, I'm not really in the top end. We do a lot of dirt tracks, single track, stuff like that. And so with that being said, there's no point in me replacing this whole pipe and spending that kind of money on that. So I'd rather save that money for other parts of the bike, like suspension and making it more comfortable, things like that. These foot pegs vibrate like crazy. So I actually ordered a different engine mount setup. So I ordered the P3 carbon fiber racing engine mount. I'm not sure how well that's gonna do yet. It might dampen the vibrations on the feet a little, definitely might dampen the vibrations on the handlebar a little bit, but it's probably not gonna be enough. So we might go to like a polyurethane foot peg, where it's like a polyurethane insert inside of the foot peg. Also gives a little bit of flex, a little bit of movement, which is better for your feet anyhow. So we're probably gonna do that. Last year I broke my brake lever off, so we went back to the stock brake lever. I do have a new aftermarket brake lever for it, so I'm probably gonna install that as well while we're doing all this stuff. And then I have the OEM plastic kit. This is an aftermarket Atrubis kit. So we're probably gonna go back to the OEM plastics for this year. I realized that, you know, I wasn't sure about this bike when I first bought it. I was thinking maybe I'd end up selling this thing after a year and I wouldn't like it that much, but I honestly love it. I absolutely love this thing. It's been nothing but reliable, been very fun to drive, very fun to rip on. It's very fast, very quick in stock form, and it'll be even better with the Get ECU. So I'm really looking forward to that and feeling the difference and change. But in the meantime, it's like, you know, I don't want to sell this bike. So I'm going to put the OEM 6 days plastics on, and we'll destroy those this year and then maybe get new plastics for 2025. That's kind of the plan. I really was thinking about doing all new plastics in white and then a graphics kit. And then I was like, you know what, I already have all these plastics, let's just run them. So that's the plan. We also did order some wraparound handguards. So we're going to be replacing these OEM handguards with our new wraparound style ones. So that'll be nice, it'll be a little bit safer. I do have new grips on the way. I bought 2 sets. I bought the OD Rogue set, the V2 that I really liked. I destroyed those last year, so I ended up putting the regular ODI ones that came with the bike back on. And then you can see this one has already been destroyed. So these guys have to come off. So we'll probably go with the Rogues, but I also ordered another set just to try out. They're supposed to be also dampening in vibrations. So I'm really focused on dampening the vibrations 110% this year. It's like, as much as I can dampen, I'm going to do. I'm going to spend the money, spend the time to do that. And the reason why is because I want to enjoy the bike. I want to ride it as much as possible. And I don't want my hands to get numb at the end of the day, during the process, during riding, whatever. So that's kind of the plan right now. Obviously, we're going to change all the fluids. So we're going to get some oil in here. We're going to desmog the bike, and we're also going to upgrade all of the coolant system with new radiator hoses from Samco. I bought those last year, never put them in, so we're going to do that this year. So right now, I'm going to put you guys on time lapse. The first thing I'm going to do is kind of just tear down the bike, tear down all the plastics, get everything off, get the tank off, kind of relocate some of the things, get some of our handlebar stuff that we don't need right now off of the bike. So that way it's kind of out of the way, it's less clutter, and we can work on things a little bit easier. And then we'll desmog the bike today. And then if I get far enough, we'll start with the Samco kit, get the Samco kit on here for the radiator hoses. And yeah, that's pretty much it for today. And then in the future, we're gonna start with all the other stuff that I said. So this is gonna be kind of a series. We're gonna do all these things in that I talked about in this little series to try to get this thing as good as it can possibly be for 2024. So we can have an awesome time riding it with 0 issues. That's the plan. So we're going for comfortability, rideability, and longevity. So that's the plan for this, and let's get after it, guys. Let's do it. Alright guys, it's probably only been about 10-15 minutes, but we got the bike almost completely torn down with all the plastics and stuff off of it. Not quite all the way, but pretty close. I just wanted to go over a few things really quick that I noticed when I was going through this. Pretty much all of the bolts were still tight, which was really good. Our tank bolt was not, so I definitely need to look into that because that's obviously a little concerning. Everything under here looks pretty clean, relatively speaking. Definitely not the cleanest or as clean as it could be. So I'll try to get some of that cleaned up. But for the most part, everything came off pretty dang good. One thing I noticed was our air filter here. We clearly ride in a lot of sand, like a lot of sand. So I'm just gonna pull this off for you guys so you can see the damage, because I think that's kind of a cool thing for you guys to see. So look at that. Oh my God. Air filter is disgusting. So this is, the air box looks completely clean. But if we look at our air filter here, whoo! If you look at the backside, looks pretty dang good. But looking at this has definitely seen better days for sure. So probably gonna order like a 6 set of these and change them a little bit more often this year. I only changed this once last year, so I guess I changed it like every 450 miles, something like that, maybe 300 miles I changed it, and then I let it go for 500, I don't know, whatever I did. Needs to be changed more often. Sock definitely needs to be changed more often and cleaned more often. These are pretty easy to clean. Usually you can get most of this crap out of there. I don't know if this one's gonna be replaceable or not, or reusable or not. So we'll try to clean that up the best we can. I do have an aftermarket air filter. I really don't like to run the aftermarket stuff. I don't think it's as good. So we definitely won't be doing that. We're gonna be replacing this one with an OEM filter. So that's the plan there. But I just figured I'd show you guys how dirty this was after, you know, I'm gonna guess somewhere between 400 and 500 miles of abuse, and very dirty. So check these often, change these often. These guys help tremendously. If we didn't have this on here, this thing would be completely black, whereas there's still a little bit of spots that are good, and the bike ran fine. So just, you know, trying to show you guys that. Airbox completely clean, no dirt or debris or anything in there. So that's wonderful news. So just trying to show you guys what I'm noticing as I'm pulling things apart. So let's keep going. Let's get back into it. Alright guys, so like I said before, we are replacing our ECU. So I did pull this guy out. This is our stock ECU. What I will be doing is I'm just going to clean it up, make sure there's no dirt or debris on it whatsoever, and then I'm going to put it in a bag and basically save it for later, just in case we ever decide that we want to get rid of this bike and or convert it back to stock. We'll be keeping all of the stock Desmog components, we'll be keeping all the stock parts and accessories. So that way we can basically revert it back to OEM if we ever decide to do so. It's not a whole lot of work to change it back out, and some of these bikes are compatible with different ECUs and whatnot. So if we ever decide to get a different bike and it's compatible with the new Get ECU that we get, then we'd be good to go. Now, the likelihood of me selling this bike at this point in time is slim to none. I have no intentions of selling. But it's more or less just in case, right? Like just in case I do want to sell it down the road in the future. It's probably going to be a very long time because I put a lot of time and money into the development of this bike. And like I said earlier, I really enjoy riding it. But that's just one of the things I'm doing right now is just getting the ECU out, cleaning it up. I will tape off this connector just to make sure that absolutely nothing gets in here. These are super nice connectors from the factory. You really don't want to damage or hurt or distort anything here. So I'm going to tape all that up, make sure that that's got a nice solid surface. This is our little case for it, so I'm going to leave my case here, and then we're just going to take our stock ECU, throw it in a baggie, and call that good for now. The reason why they do put this rubber on here is because you do have electrical components in here, so you don't really want this bouncing around or riding or anything. So wherever you put this, don't put it in a place that's gonna, you know, get banged up or beat up. You really don't want that, especially on the connector portion. It's just plastic, so you know, if you bang or beat up that plastic, it could break, and then your ECU will never have a watertight solid seal again. That would be very bad. So I'm gonna go ahead and bag this up, and we're gonna keep moving forward and keep making progress. You can see I got most of it torn down at this point. I would like to take these black plastics off just to clean them up. Probably not gonna do that right now, because in order to do that, we do have to kind of slip it past the exhaust and whatnot. So probably do that in the future, but right now everything's looking pretty clean, so I might try to clean it up a little bit better. And then what I will do is I will go ahead and after I finish my cleaning job, I'll go ahead and start the smog delete. We will be leaving the factory oxygen sensor in here. A lot of people take that out when you get the ECU. For me, we're gonna leave it in there. It's not gonna do anything per se. The only reason we're gonna leave the factory oxygen sensors in there is just in case we ever get pulled over and the officer decides to look at my bike. It's gonna look like we still have the factory oxygen sensor, and they'll have no idea unless they remove my seat and remove the plastic here that we have an aftermarket ECU. So it's kind of a little bit of trickery on my behalf, but I would really like to not get in any trouble for removing the stock O2 sensor. So in my case, we are going to leave it where it's at. Also, while we're here, the spark plug is very easily accessible. So after 900 miles of riding, haven't had any issues, but I do think it's time to put a new plug in there just to be safe. So we will do that. And also, since our end cap is readily accessible now, I might also pull our end cap off because we're gonna be replacing that too. So I'm still waiting on some of these parts to show up, but I do know what we're gonna be replacing and what we're not replacing. So as I figure out what we are replacing, I am getting rid of stuff because it's just gonna be in the way, and it's like, why have it in the way if it doesn't need to be, right? So that's kind of the plan. I'm gonna keep pushing forward, and we're gonna keep making progress here. All right, guys, so the bike is officially and completely desmogged. Man, oh man, did that take some doing. Was not prepared. I had to break the charcoal canister into small pieces. The one thing I didn't realize is that you do have your exhaust open. Thankfully, the valve was closed, so none of those pieces could get up into the engine or anything like that. I blew out the exhaust area and I inspected it with an inspection camera. There's no charcoal pieces in there, so I got really lucky. The other thing you want to do is close off your ports if they're open for your coolant. Make sure that those are closed up. You definitely do not want to have anything get inside of there. So, because that'll go through your water pump and you don't want anything in your water pump. So anyhow, got the charcoal canister out, removed all the Smog pieces. I attached our little Takamoto Co dongle, which basically just tricks the ECU so you don't have any air codes on. So I'll have to sneak that up somewhere and make it look good. Wow, that was a super pain. I don't know what else to say. You actually have to take the entire exhaust off on the front piece, including this guy, your exhaust. We're just gonna call this like your single collector that has 2 springs on it. 2 springs have to be removed, the 2 bolts have to be removed, the front of the exhaust has to be removed, just to get that charcoal canister out of the way. There's no other way to do it. So really horrible design to remove a charcoal canister, but it is what it is. You can always leave them in there. Most guys leave them in there and they just plug the nipples on them. There's 3 little nipples. You can do that, you can plug them. In my case, I really just wanted to remove it. I mean, there's no point in leaving it in there if I'm never gonna use it again. Like, I will never use it again. I still have all the other stuff, so if somebody wants to revert it to factory, they could. They would just have to replace that charcoal canister, which I'm sure is relatively cheap. Maybe it's super expensive, I have no idea. I will never be doing that. So in my case, everything is fine, but if somebody buys the bike, I'll let them know the charcoal canister has been removed, and if they do want to go back to Smog, they will have to install that again. So we will be replacing this gasket right here. Have to order one of those from KTM. Just a little replacement head gasket or valve exhaust gasket. I guess it's an exhaust gasket. So replace that. We'll clean all this up, make it look fresh and nice again, and then we'll get this bad boy on there and resealed. It doesn't look like it matters which way it goes. It looks like you can go top or bottom. There's some writing up here, so we'll probably just put the writing facing upward because I believe that's how it was before. So we'll probably just do the same thing. So other than that, everything else looks good. I'm still going to take off our, I'm going to call this the left side radiator. Still have to remove that so we get those Samco hoses on here. But we are moving and cruising and making some progress, so all is well. Alrighty guys, we are back at the shop today. We are working on the KTM EXCF 500, and basically I'm just kind of going through things, making sure things look good, and waiting on a bunch of parts to get here so we can complete the build for 2024 and have a great time riding this year. So a couple things that I'm working on right now is basically just kind of cleaning some things up. I moved some things out of the way. I'm going to turn the bike around and make sure you guys can see what I'm talking about. Yeah, okay, good. So we are doing something special with our rear brake lever. So I actually took it off. I took all of the line off and I took it off the master. So we're doing something really sick and special there. So I kind of got rid of all the stuff that we're not using right now that we're going to be replacing. I labeled all of our relays, ECU, lights, and fan. Basically, why I did that was just so that way when I am working on the bike, it's going to make life a lot easier to work on the bike. So if I think that there's a relay issue when we're on the side of the trailer or something, I can just come back here, pop the seat off and say, okay, this is the ECU, this is the light, this is the fan. That way I don't have to mentally remember in my head which one is which. It just tells me right here. So kind of smart to label those things. For safety's sake, I added some extra fuses in here in these little KTM, I don't really know what you want to call this, pouch is what I'm going to call it. There's like a little bit of room. It comes with 2 spare 10s. So I added 1 more spare 10 and 1 spare 5. So it's literally a complete replacement fuse set. So if any of those fuses go bad, we can replace any of them on the side of the trail. So that's super sick. Right here is Slavin Racing. This is their, gosh, I'm gonna mess this up. I'm trying to remember exactly what it's called. Capacitor. This is their capacitor. So the KTM EXCF 500 doesn't come with a capacitor from the factory. Now, if you get a model that's more MX related for more or less tracks, Most of those do come with a capacitor from the factory. This EXCF does not, for whatever reason. It's like, I guess they just think that you don't need one, which is kind of dumb in my opinion. I don't really like that. So anyhow, we got this guy in stock. So we are going to be adding this to the bike. I'm going to be waiting to do that because we have some other wire related things that we're going to be doing and adding to our battery. Specifically a ground. We'll probably add a secondary ground somewhere else on the chassis. Sometimes these grounds will go bad. I've already relocated this one, so it's hard mounted to the aluminum chassis. We cleaned up everything before we did that, just try to make it good. And then one other thing we're doing is we're using some of this super lube. This is anti-corrosion and connector gel. It's dielectric grease, it's just a gel. You don't need a lot of it, but when you're running through things like dirt, mud, a lot of water, stuff like that, your connectors can get gummed up. And if they do, okay, got a phone call coming in. If they do get gummed up, you're gonna have an issue. And the biggest issue that you're gonna have is maybe your bike won't start, maybe your starter switch, your relay switch right here, this guy is known to cause issues and not want to work. So, just going through some of these things can make the difference of continuing to ride your bike and being stuck on the side of the trail, not being able to ride your motorcycle, ride your bike. So in our instance, we already had one of these wires cut on accident. It happened in a wreck, and so when I wrecked the bike, and basically that wire got snipped, so I already rewired that one. You can rewire your entire bike with different connectors, waterproof connectors. Not really something I recommend doing. It's a lot of work, and then if you ever need to replace parts, you have to rewire again. So, and also it's like if somebody already has that same part on the trail or in the truck as a spare, then going back to that, now you have to rewire those things in. So it's probably not the best move, but adding some of this anti-corrosion dielectric grease is a great idea. So basically what we like to do on all of our bikes, and we got this tip from Takamoto Co, so I'm not taking credit for this, but on all of our bikes what we like to do is we basically just come up here to the front and we take a connector. So I'm going to take this one. This is our key switch, so this is definitely a good one to do. And basically we're just going to go ahead and pop that connector out, and I can already see that there is corrosion starting on this one. So while we're in here, just going to give that a nice little blowout. And I actually got something in that connector, so I'm going to clean that out a little bit better. And then what we do is we take the female side of the connector and we just kind of shove up a little bit of this dielectric grease in there, and this just kind of helps prevent bad things from happening, keeps your connections nice and clean, and make sure that rust and corrosion doesn't play or have a play effect inside of your wiring harness. So super simple to do, definitely something I recommend. So we're going to do that to all these connectors up front, some of the other connectors in the back. Just try to get everything as fresh as humanly possible before we go to slap it all together. So that's kind of it for right now. I'll keep you guys updated as I move forward and we make more progress. Right now we're just really waiting on parts. So when those parts get here, we will continue on further. So thanks guys, that's just the tip for right now, and appreciate you guys watching. If you like this kind of content, please like, comment, subscribe, and we will be continuing progress on this KTM EXCF 6 days 500 model. Thanks, peace.